I suspect my husband is having an affair with our mutual friend and I'm not sure how to proceed. My husband and I have had our ups and downs throughout our relationship of 12 years, but we have always stuck together and helped raise each other up when we were down. We have a mutual friend, we'll call her Jade, who is married to my husband's friend, who I will call Fred. A few years ago, my husband and I went through a really rough patch where we separated for a few months. During that time we were able to work out our differences and he moved back home. Things were a lot better than before the split, but we still had our ups and downs. During that time I confided in two of my close friends, Jade and Mary. Jade was always pretty quiet about the whole thing, which I assumed was due to the fact that she and her husband Fred were also friends with my husband. Mary was quite vocal, which is how her personality is. She has no filter and tells it how it is, whether you want to hear it or not. After my husband had moved back home I noticed that Jade acted oddly around him. She would turn red, or act slightly flirtatious. My husband never reciprocated or even seemed to notice, so I assumed it was all in my head. About a year ago Jade and Fred separated, and Jade moved into a house in my neighborhood. I thought this was odd because Jade and Fred lived about an hour away. During this time Jade would always call my husband and ask him for favors, to come help move some boxes, or do some minor home repairs. No big deal, right? He was the only male she knew in the general area, but I noticed her odd behavior seemed to increase. Her conversations with him on social media increased tenfold, and the frequency in which she texted me dropped. Also her flirting seemed to increase. One day Mary was over my house and we were hanging out and Jade stopped by. Us three girls were in the living room talking and my husband came in the room for something. I don't remember why now, but Jade's whole demeanor changed. She sat up straight, sort of fixed her hair a bit, all that. I noticed but again thought I was just being paranoid. Jade left not much later. After Jade left, Mary turned to me and said Jade acts so weird around him. If I didn't know any better I'd say she had a crush on him. I was shocked that someone else had noticed. I confided in Mary that I had been noticing strange behavior from Jade for a long time, but my husband seemed to be totally clueless. We had a conversation about it, and I felt better knowing it wasn't in my head. I did not feel threatened by her advances or question my husband's relationship with her in any way. Later that night I jokingly mentioned to my husband what Mary and I had discussed. He seemed shocked and thought the whole thing was ridiculous. He did concede it was strange that of all the places Jade could have moved during her split from Fred, she chose our neighborhood. He denied having an inappropriate relationship with Jade, and I believed him. We joked about the absurdity of the whole situation. Fast forward a year and Jade is back with Fred, and Jade's friendship with my husband has seemed to grow stronger. They talk online a lot and text each other quite frequently. I never accused my husband of having an affair, but their friendship did cause me to raise my eyebrows. Jade rarely speaks to me anymore, and my husband rarely speaks of Jade. Now I'm about to admit to something I'm not proud of, but my curiosity was getting the better of me, so I checked my husband's private messages on the social media site in which they talk. There were a lot of messages, mostly from his friends and a few from me, but none from Jade, dating back over a year. Edit to clarify, the messages are threads, so even if I don't message him for 3 weeks, it will show up in a single thread with my old messages. I felt like a terrible person but breathed a sigh of relief, sort of. I still had a nagging feeling, so I checked his email. I know I'm a shitty person for doing this. He had an email from the social media site saying he had received a private message from Jade the previous night at 11:30 p.m. The message just said, "You awake?" But I had just looked at his private messages and there wasn't one from Jade. He deleted it. He kept all the others but deleted the one from Jade, or many, since the messages are in threads and he deleted the thread. How peculiar. My relationship with my husband is currently in one of our rough patches. We go through waves but are always able to make it work because we are in love, but this time it's different. Rather than discuss our problems, my husband has started saying things like, "We are too different to make this work. We have very different personalities, but it has always been one of our favorite things about our marriage." He is able to pick up in areas in which I am lacking, and vice versa. I was completely shocked to hear him say this. He has mentioned having problems with my personality that he has never once in 12 years had a problem with. Every trait he is picking out are things that he has in common with Jade. For example, I don't drink or go out. Jade does. I don't like the same music as him. Jade does. Little things like that. I asked him if he wanted to move out and he started panicking saying he didn't know what he wants. Basically he is acting like he doesn't know who to decide between. Of course this is all speculation, that's why I am here. If I ask either one of them if there is something going on between them, of course they will deny it. If I ask Fred if Jade has been acting oddly lately, I will seem like a crazy person. I don't know how to find out what's going on. How do I find out whether or not they are having an affair, can I? TLDR, I suspect my husband is having an affair with a mutual friend and I don't know how to find out the truth. Edit. I checked our phone records online, and while my husband and I were having a very tense and heated text conversation today, he was also texting back and forth with a number that I don't recognize. I typed it into my phone but I don't have a contact for that number, so it might not be Jade. I say might because Fred is very wealthy and I wouldn't be surprised if Jade has two phones. As I was leaving work I called Mary and asked her to call the number and ask who it was. To pretend she had the wrong number, she did and said that there was no answer and the voicemail message was a generic one with no name. I am going to do some detective work tonight and I will update as I come across anything. Edit 4. I just remembered Fred is an Apple/iPhone genius, so Jade would likely know better than to do anything unsavory on her iPhone because Fred would find out. I'm leaning towards her having a second phone, but again, no proof. I know most are convinced he is having an affair, and while I feel better knowing I'm not crazy for thinking so, this absolutely sucks, but I don't feel like I have enough definitive proof yet. I need concrete evidence. Edit 2. We work opposite shifts. He's home alone all day. Jade lives an hour away but doesn't work, so she has the time to make the drive. I'm thinking of setting up a nanny cam. Any suggestions on which one? Edit 3. Mary has a friend that runs a business and pays for background check services, so she's going to see if she can find out whose phone number he was texting today. Edit 5. Comments are apparently locked for some reason. I don't know why, but I will post an update in a couple days when I can. Thank you everyone for your advice. Update. Original post is here, but it's locked. I'm not sure if you can see it or not, but the TLDR was I suspected my husband of having an affair with our mutual friend, Jade, who is married to Fred, who was a friend of my husband's, but I had no physical evidence. So yesterday, I tracked my husband with GPS and watched where he was going during the day. When I saw that he was in a car, traveling fast down a road to out of town, I casually texted him and asked what he was up to. He said he was walking to the store, which was in the opposite direction of where he was headed. I watched him all day, stopping here and there, going out to eat with her, traveling all over the place. I would periodically text him to make conversation, and he would lie the entire time. At one point he said he was just walking around the neighborhood thinking about us. My blood was boiling. I knew he was with someone who had an iPhone because there were no calls or texts made that morning, so he must have communicated via iMessage. Jade has an iPhone. I highly suspected he was with her, but I had no proof. After he was dropped off at home, he texted me saying he was sorry for being distant today. He was just doing a lot of thinking. I didn't tell him I knew he was lying the whole day because I had planned to gather more evidence. Later in the evening I couldn't take it anymore. I asked him where he was all day, and he said, "What do you mean? I told you I was walking around." In my rage I said, "I know you are lying. I know where you've been." He admitted to spending a little time with Jade, that they went and grabbed something to eat. I told him I knew about everywhere he went. I knew about the late-night phone calls. While I was watching him yesterday, I checked the phone records and saw an unbelievable amount of calls going back and forth between them. I don't know why I didn't think to check the call records on Monday. I knew about the secret private messages on social media. I knew about it all. He confessed that he and Jade have gotten really close and spend a lot of time together, talking. At first, he said it was innocent. I told him if it was innocent, he wouldn't be lying and sneaking around. He agreed and admitted he knew what he was doing was wrong. I texted Fred last night and told him everything I knew. He said he had been uncomfortable with their friendship for a while, but didn't know if I was or if I even knew. We talked for a while, but I don't know what they are going to do. All I know is I am getting a divorce. My husband claims their relationship was never physical, but I can never trust him again. No matter what he does or where he goes, I will always question who he is with and if he's lying to me. I cannot and will not spend my life tracking my husband and making sure he is where he says he is, and isn't sneaking around with other women. I deleted and blocked Jade off of all my social media accounts. I didn't text her or say anything to her. I know if I even tried I would end up saying some pretty foul stuff to her, which she deserves, but I'm better than that. So not only did I lose an extremely shitty friend in this whole thing, I am also losing my best friend, the love of my life, and the father of my children. I am destroyed. TLDR, he admitted to emotional infidelity, but nothing more. That was enough for me. He has broken my trust irreparably, and we are going to divorce.